faith is shaken, but
This is Channel 2 Radio, the Mindset Matters Show with Zinat Noorani.
Good morning and welcome to the Mindset Matters Show. Here every Friday at the same time, same place, I'm talking everything about mental health and well-being. But before I begin, firstly, I'd like to thank my sponsors this month. Musa Abdul, owner and director of Imperial Real Estate Group. They do property services, commercial repairs and sanitisation services, and they go by the unique values of integrity, respect and excellence. So do check them out on imperialregroup.com. And thank you to Sandra Del Monte, founder and director of Mindberry. They are a coaching platform that offers everything around mental health and well-being for individuals and companies and building those relationships to be the better self. So if you'd like to find out more about them, it's mind-berry.com-home. So you're in for a treat today. In just a bit, I will be speaking. Well, it's a pre-recorded show, as we know, due to the COVID, but you'll be hearing from Graham Baker, who is absolutely inspiring and has so much to talk about in terms of mental health and the growth and positive change, purely from his personal experiences from what he's gone through. So do stick around to listen to his interview. As always, I would love to hear from you, so do tweet in your comments and shout-outs to Zinat_Noorani, and don't forget to use the hashtag MSM Radio Talks in your post so that I can kind of pick them out ASAP, because it's quite a lot to kind of go through. And for those of you who are listening for the first time, just a little bit insight on who I am. I'm the founder of Vida de la Mariposa, which is Life of a Butterfly. I help my clients transform their personal and business life, predominantly working with HR directors and managers and working with their team. So it's all about giving them the right techniques to help with clarity, break down limiting beliefs, create that right mindset so that they don't have to suffer from stress, over workload and to that point of burnout, giving them just more confidence and allowing productivity. So if you want to find out more about myself, then do visit zinatnoorani.com. Can you believe it? It's already the end of January. I honestly can't believe, where January has gone and how this year has passed. Lots of ups and downs, So if you'd like to tweet in, how are you feeling right now, coming to the end of January and kind of moving forward? I would love to hear what's going on in your minds, what's going on in your life, share, inspire. This is what this radio station is all about. And as we know, this month is about light at the end of the tunnel. So, we are coming out of this slowly but surely, and just hold on to that hope. Now, I believe that we should be grateful for each day that we get through and not to be so hard on ourselves. So a good tip would be to set yourself really simple, small goals, little steps, baby steps that could, just be 5 minutes to yourself. Like reading a book or saying, what I'm going to achieve one thing is making one extra phone call, and be grateful that you've done that. It doesn't really matter, what you do, but be grateful for the small things that you do and reward yourself for them. Reward it, because that's what's going to keep you motivated and it's going to keep you going. Any change we make is difficult, but the key is starting off small and then gradually adding more and more to make that change so that you see yourself reaching that light at the end of the tunnel. So, thinking about next month, I'm already thinking about next month, and we have some amazing guests coming on. But I just wanted to retouch last week's show where we spoke to Christine Atkinson from the Rotary Club Darren Wheel from Intune PR and Michael Ullman, who's an events director. And they talked about unemployment, and slowly things are beginning to change. And if you're still struggling out there, do go onto the Rotary website and have a look at the workshops they've got to offer. They're really insightful. They can kind of give you that boost to help you in the right direction. Even if you're not thinking about going straight into employment, but upskilling yourself, then that is really healthy for your mindset as well. And if you want to catch up on any of my past shows, you can visit my website and just click on the link that says Missed Shows. So you can find that all there. So I'm going to go into a break really early because the interview that I have with Graham is a little bit longer than I expected. And I want to make sure that I give enough time so that you can hear the whole interview, because I felt I was a bit rushed last week because I kind of went over time with that interview as well. You know, the problem is I love talking to all my guests. They're so inspirational. You know, I'm a mental health coach and wellbeing practitioner, and I even get inspired by that, and it's so important. So it's a massive learning for me, and it just kind of helps me in my growth. So without any further ado, we're going to go into another tune, and this tune is dedicated to Darren Wheel. He requested this, actually, and it's called Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.
You're
Welcome to Mindset Matters, exploring mental health and well-being horizons with Zeenat Noorani. This show is dedicated to offering insight, support and tips, covering a range of topics related to addressing your mental health and well-being. Each week, guest experts and brave inspirational people share their personal journey and experiences about their recovery, bringing awareness and change to the importance of breaking through this long-standing negative stigma.
Well, there you have it. Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, requested by Darren Wheel. How many of you were up there dancing? What a great tune for Friday. I mean, if only you could have seen me. I was just dancing around the studio. Luckily, I'm all alone here. So what gets you boogieing up, in the morning, in the afternoon, when you're feeling a little bit down? What kind of tunes do you listen to that kind of refocuses you, remotivates you, and just gets the blood pumping? Would love to hear. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to put on the interview that I had with Graham Baker. Welcome, Graham. Thank you for taking the time to come to the show and share your story to all our listeners.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. It's great to be here.
And I believe, the thing about sharing these stories really helps our listeners who have gone through very sort of similar events, but also to other people who may know of someone who is struggling. So I think these shows are really, really important, and especially during this difficult time. I'm sure that you can shed a lot of light to our listeners today.
Sure, yeah.
And it's going to be fantastic. I know it is. You've been through such a journey, and I'm just waiting to ask you loads of questions, and just for you to tell us, the impact of everything. And you titled it as From Pain to Passion to Purpose. I mean, that's so powerful. For all the listeners out there, Graham looks at life from a everyman perspective. As a serving police officer, Graham was happy and enjoying his work. And certainly he says that it wasn't what he was thinking about, whether he would be starting up his photography business. It kind of all changed, didn't it, in 2009?
It did indeed, yes.
So, Graham, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your background and how things changed for you drastically, and the impact it had on you, on your mental health and well-being?
Yes, thank you, Zena. So I'll cut straight to the chase. Yes, so I was in the Metropolitan Police in London. I've served now. Well, now I'm not in the police anymore, but I served 15 years altogether. But back in 2009, I was doing sort of like recruit training and things like that. I was an acting sergeant helping you recruit. Mm-hmm. But December 2009, my wife and I, we lost our baby daughter in childbirth. So it was full term.
Right.
Normal sort of pregnancy. There was no issues whatsoever. Nothing was detected, no issues. Woke up on the morning and, my wife saying, we need to go to the hospital. Baby's on its way. We get down to the hospital. They start doing all their checks and couldn't find a heartbeat.
Right.
So the initial sort of shock that goes through that denial that, no, this is, you must be able to find it because everything's fine. But no, it was, she had died. And we later found out that it was a double knot in her cord, which is extremely rare.
Right.
But it's completely undetectable. There's nothing you can do. And obviously when she moved into position to sort of, further down into the birth canal and all the rest of it, the knot tightened. And obviously that stopped the blood flow and all the nutrients getting to her, and she died in the womb. So
there's no signs about it that, that kind of mentally would have kind of prepared you, or at least you knew. It was like a complete shock.
Complete shock, yeah. I mean, I've got a vivid memory of sort of being confused when the consultant, in the hospital, and then one person's come in and then they look worried, they go off, somebody else comes in, then somebody else comes in who's it seems more and more important as it goes through. And I just remember the consultant sort of saying, yeah, she's unfortunately, there's no heartbeat. And I just remember kind of vividly just going, that can't be right. And I remember the consultant giving me a hug, but I just didn't react at all. And but we still had to, my wife still had to give birth, which is probably just as horrendous because
Very traumatic.
Yeah, and I don't want to give it a disservice by it, but it's the only way I can explain it. It's having to go through the whole process as you normally would, and this was our second child, so we know the process and everything that goes on, but knowing you're not going to get the prize at the end of it, and I don't mean that in a disservice way, but that's how it felt like. And so obviously that happened, and it was a difficult time, and it turned all my life priorities upside down, and you just sort of like valued what was my purpose in life and what was important and what was not.
And what kind of things were going through your mind, that was drastically changing in terms of the way you were thinking, you were feeling, and your wife as well, because obviously you're both grieving together.
Yeah, there's a lot of anger. I think from my perspective, being the man, always being the stereotypical thinking that I'm the provider and I need to be strong, but it was something that was out of my control. I had no control over it, and I was angry at the fact that I had no control over it. And, was it this? And, you get into the whole if this or if that, or if only this happened, or if only I'd done this, was it something we did? And you get all those kinds of thoughts and feelings. So there's the anger, and then there's almost a guilt that we've done something wrong, which of course we hadn't. It was just complete circumstances. At the time, I was in the police, and they did provide a degree of counselling, which was useful. But like anything in the services and businesses, it is changing. But back 11 years ago, it was very much right. Here's your 6 sessions. Okay, you're fine now. Get back to work, kind of thing. And it was very much like that.
It's almost like a process, a structure. If something happens, here you go. Here's the booklet that you kind of follow.
Yeah, fill in the form, paint by the numbers, and then that's all we provide you. And it's I'm giving it a disservice. They were great. They gave me plenty of time off. They gave me sort of restricted hours to sort of come back into the strength of it. But then after a while, you were back into the routine of going into work and doing the job. And, as you can imagine, being a police officer, certainly in Southeast London, which is where I was based, it was a tough job, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. But I guess, I don't guess, I know now that I didn't really deal with it properly. I just put on that stiff upper lip, right, okay, I need to
get on with it.
God, yeah.
Do you feel that, because there's that stigma of how a man should be, I know that's slowly changing, but do you think you were afraid of that and therefore you might have not dealt with it fully then, or were there some barriers because of the stigmas?
Yeah, I think the stigma's definitely there, but from my perspective, I wouldn't say it was a fear of sharing and talking about these things. It was more to do with there's no instruction manual for this kind of thing.
Yeah, there never is.
It's that, I suppose there is a fear in a sense, because it's like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to deal with it, so I won't bother. I can't read the instruction manual on how to deal with the bereavement of a lost child. There is no manual for that.
There is no, and everyone reacts in a different way and processes bereavement at a different speed as well.
Exactly that. So I guess from that sort of point, it was, I'm back to work. My wife we did get some initial help from the charity SANS, and I didn't really get much from that whole sort of, sharing with other couples and stuff. I just didn't feel comfortable. But my wife did, and she went on to become a befriender and helps other couples and helps other people, and eventually retrained to be a counsellor, as in helping people suffering from those kinds of issues. Yeah. But I didn't. I just carried on and did things. But the one thing that did happen around that sort of time was that I've always been into photography. I was always the annoying person before we had camera phones, I always had the point and shoot in my pocket down the pub sort of thing. And I did a lot of travelling in my younger days, and I got to go to some really cool places. So I was always taking pictures. And one of the things about having Scarlett was I literally just bought myself a new camera thinking, we've got Sydney, my oldest, and we've got Scarlett. I can take some amazing pictures and as part of the hobby. But I found that after all the sort of the initial sort of 6 months of dealing with this, the photography became really helpful. It sort of helped me, be creative. It helped me it was a place of calm. It was a happy place kind of thing where I could just sort of focus on that would help me sort of, whether it was a help as such or whether it was masking things, maybe, I don't know. But
did you find that sort of by yourself, or was it that somebody had said to you, find something that inspires you or interests you to kind of refocus your attention and your emotions?
I think the photography itself was from myself, it was from within. I just, because I'd always been into it, and I just remember picking up the camera and taking pictures and that kind of helped. But then you said about someone asking me, but then someone in the Sands charity, it was another couple that had lost their baby similar sort of time. The wife was a photographer, and she said, would you like to, obviously through conversation she found out that I was a hobbyist, and she said, would you like to help out on some weddings and stuff, just sort of and I did, and I loved it. And the business side of things, I had no intention of starting a business at all. It was I was in the police and that was it. But I think that joy became almost addictive, and it organically turned into this business, which is what I do full time now.
Which is your passion, and I'm assuming has become your purpose as well.
Very much so, but there's ups and downs in between there and there. Yes. But certainly that's where I am now. It's very much, the passion is the photography, but the purpose is more about that sort of supportive, that, I see all these amazing businesses out there, yet they're not being seen and heard. And I just think it's like my purpose is to sort of like say, look, you're doing something so fantastic. Show your clients and show them what you're doing. And that's kind of where what drives it. Yeah. I also take a huge amount of comfort that I've created something out of something so terrible. That said, I stayed in the police for a number of years, and although the photography was going okay and I enjoyed that part of it, the constant pressures of work, I sort of come to realise that I wasn't actually a nice person, or I'd become and I think that was to do with the anger.
What, the person that you didn't want to be? I mean, would you say that's because of the pressures of being in the police? I mean, because that's another whole topic that we can talk about maybe on another show. Absolutely. What police officers go through.
It's huge. It's the stress, the constant work. Obviously there's been lots of reduced finances in terms of the government cuts and all the rest of it, and all those kinds of measures. So it was constantly being asked to do more for less. It was difficult to retain experienced police officers because they're trying to keep the numbers up, but people are going off sick because of stress. And I mean, that's a whole different subject.
And obviously, but that all piles up, doesn't it? And its impact. So if you go through one trauma, which you went through with your, your daughter passing away, to having this already there, it can be like a double whammy of stress and anxiety.
Absolutely. And the way I kind of describe it to people now is like a ball. So I had this golf ball size anger and unresolved bereavement, and then all the other stresses would then wrap around this ball, and this ball was getting bigger and bigger and bigger inside me over the following years. So, you know, what I've now learned is that bereavement, there is no time limit on this stuff. You know, you could be totally fine, and then 10 years later, which is what happened to me, it can come out of nowhere and actually smack you around the face, which is what happened. So a few years ago, I was still in the police, and I just remember, no specific catalyst or anything, but I just remember doing a job. I can't say too much about the job, but it was basically a big job that we did. And I remember being at this location thinking, and it was a success, huge success, but I thought, I got no joy from it. I got no interest in it. I just felt completely numb. And then a few weeks later, I just remembered waking up one morning, I couldn't get out of bed. I was just like, I just don't want to do anything. I just don't feel that I've got any purpose anymore. Even the photography. So that's when my wife said, I think you better go to the doctors and talk to someone else. And then that's when I was diagnosed with depression. I had anxiety issues and sleep, which is why I think I wasn't a very nice person to people. Not that I had intentionally been.
No, but we know stress and lack of sleep and all of this can change our behaviour patterns and the way we feel. But, you know, it's wonderful that you had someone by your side, I'm assuming, to say, hang on a minute, Graham, I think you need to go see the GP or talk to someone, because there are a lot of people who may not even have that.
No.
I mean, just because I'm kind of weary of time and things, but what did you learn from this, from your, you know, or what was the biggest setback and what did you learn from it?
I think, I suppose the easiest way to answer that is that obviously when I, also roughly about the same time that I was sort of diagnosed, there was this charity Strongmen that sort of came onto the scene, and I was kind of made aware of it because it was called Strongmen, and it was based on it was created from a couple of contestants from the TV show SAS Who Dares Wins. And they put this charity together, and it was specifically for men, I'm one, and about bereavement too. I've been there as well, and suffered from it from a mental perspective and not dealt with it properly or whatever. And again, I was encouraged. I just noticed this post on social media saying we're putting together this kind of weekend retreat for guys to come on, and I was like, well, I don't know if I can do that. But my wife encouraged me again, so again, I'm very fortunate to have that, and I applied, and I got to go on this weekend, and it was tough because I probably nearly turned. In fact, I did at one point, and because it was in North Wales. Driving up there, and I remember, you know, when you go to a service station and you've got that roundabout that you can take you back down the other side. Yeah, I did that a few times on a couple of service stops where I thought, no, I'm going to do it, and then no, I'm going to go home. But I got there, and I think that weekend was the catalyst for me. It just.
Before you go on to that, just for our listeners, can you tell us a little bit more about this charity, Strong Men? You know, what is it actually all about? So if anyone wants to know about it.
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, it was set up by two contestants from the Strongmen. It was a guy called Ephraim, who's lost his son in Afghanistan, and a guy called Dan, who's a really shocking story. His wife was murdered whilst he was on the phone to her, whilst he was away on business. And obviously those kinds of incidents, you know, where it's, especially when it comes to sudden loss, when nobody was expecting it from anything, it can be really quite shocking, as I know. So they created this charity. And the idea is about promoting community, sort of a safe environment for for guys to actually talk, and focus on physical health and sort of, you know, getting out into the hills and walking and exercise and all of those kinds of things. Excuse me, too. You know, a strong body and a strong mind. It was all very much that kind of attitude. So the weekends, which is predominantly what it was about, there was no pressure to talk. There was no pressure to say or do anything. It was a case of, we're going to get together and we're going to climb to the top of Snowdon, and then we're going to have a few drinks in the evening, and then we're going to do something fun on the next day. That was it.
That was it. That's what you went for.
Yeah, it was just a kind of just to get away from it all. But that process of coming together with people that you knew had struggled, had lost a loved one, and struggled with that, was everyone else that was there. So as you're kind of climbing up this mountain together, you know, I am quite fit nowadays, but I was blowing out my backside that day. But conversations just started naturally, and
because there was no pressure.
No, people started talking, and bonds started to form about, you know, what we'd been through. There was one particular guy, that Mark, who I became really good friends with, and we walked together along the way, and he'd lost his daughter, and it just, those bonds formed, and we were then eventually just talking about this stuff. So it felt good to actually talk about it with our peers, and
because often men don't talk about their feelings and emotions. Even if you go out on a boys' night out, I don't think there's a lot of that going on anyway. No. So,
Yeah, I mean, one very quick story. It wasn't that weekend, but I went to help out on another weekend. So I was going back to sort of as a volunteer. And I remember at the end of the day, we'd been up Snowdon, and we're in a pub having a drink, and everyone was chatting, and I started laughing because I said, look, guys, here we are. We're all in this pub, and we're talking about our feelings, and we're talking about how this has changed and how positive we are.
Yeah.
And everybody started laughing because it was like, well, we're not talking about the football and the rugby, and it wasn't man speak, but it was so cathartic. And I think that was the trigger point. That's as soon as you start or have that cross that line, or take that step outside, and then start talking about it without fear of judgment or fear of putting on a face or a mask or anything like that. That for me was that started that journey into
the shift.
Yeah, it was a massive shift. And you know, my it's weird because there was another little story. There was a guy in the police, and when I left, he came up to me and said, he said, you know what? He said, when I first met you, I thought you were a right word. But now you're generous, you're friendly, you're approachable, and all the rest of it. You've really changed. And I said, no, I haven't changed. I'm back to who I should be. I'm not who I'm.
Important.
That was an important shift for me.
And to actually recognise who you really are, or were, should I say?
Yeah. I knew who I was. I knew that I wasn't a nice person, and I you know, I can't feel. Whilst I do feel bad, perhaps, you know, the way that I spoke to people and dealt with people and fell out with people and had arguments with people, but I have to sort of look, well, I can't do anything about that now. But what I can do is the here and now, and I can control what I can control. That I can't control that's happened.
Yeah.
But I can move forward, and I think that's the last few years. That's what it's been like for me, and it's just been this kind of cathartic experience.
And would you say that because of all of this experience, and then, you know, going on this strong men journey, which you're still very much part of, would you say you talk more openly about your emotions and feelings?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And would you advise anyone out there that is definitely something to be doing, regardless of whether you go through a traumatic experience or go through any mental health issues?
It's fundamental to a recovery or moving forward. That ability to talk to somebody, that could be a professional, or it could be just someone that you trust, or it could be a complete stranger that gets it. Yeah. And you know, as we said before we started the show, I'm now a peer support volunteer. So literally I get paired up with someone who is struggling, and we just have a chat, and there's no pressure to talk about anything that they're going through or anything. It's just a friendly chat, but they know that the other person on the end of that phone gets it and understands, has been through something similar, so that they then can start talking about it. And when they start talking about it, it's this weight off your shoulders. It's this cathartic experience. And I find, for me, it generates more interest.
It's just knowing someone's listening, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And because you do it, it encourages you to be, I'm not putting any masks up at all. I am who I am. And because you're more authentic about it, people will resonate with more, and it feeds itself. I'm not a woo-woo person. I just like
and it's what you said to me right at the beginning before we actually came on, that you said if you can make just one difference to one person, that's the world to you. It's just
absolutely it means a lot, especially when I've been through that, and those guys at Strong Men helped me. It feels so empowering and supportive to help others, which also helps me as well. It's that
it's an ongoing journey.
And I'm just an ordinary bloke. I'm not an expert. I'm not a mental health. I'm not training any sort of mental health. I've done some training to do the peer support stuff. But I don't, I know a little bit about NLP and all that kind of, but I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm just an ordinary guy sharing a story. And if as I say, one person,
you know what you've been through, and you know what's worked for you, and it could support somebody else, and that's fundamentally what's important as well. You know what? I could talk to you all afternoon, but I'm going to have to push on. Just very quickly, if somebody wants to get in touch with the Strong Men, do you have their website handy? Or do they just Google?
Yeah, if you just put Strongmen, I think it's strongmen.org.uk, right? Is the website. They're on all the social media platforms.
Great.
If anybody's listening to this, any guys listening to this, and they feel that this could be something. There's a new scheme that's just come out called it's called Man to Man, which is this peer support group. You sign up to it. You go through a whole process to make sure that everything's checked, so that if you're so bad, actually you need some professional help.
Right, so they're getting the right help.
Fantastic. All that sort of stuff is kind of covered in terms of it's very much about their safety as much as anything else, and their recovery. And then somebody will get put in touch with me. And then we schedule some phone calls and have a chat. And again, it's a lot of people find that more comforting than actually going to see someone to start with.
Yeah.
Because I'm not analysing anything. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you what to do or advising you to do anything. Yeah. I'm just telling you what worked for me and having a good conversation. And if stuff comes out, it comes out.
If it doesn't, great. And is that as well? You can find that information on the Strong Men website.
All on the website. It's called Man to Man. You can register for it. You can also register your interest in doing the weekend breaks, but obviously at the moment with COVID, everything is on hold. So the Man to Man stuff is kind of the main focus for the charity at the moment.
So for all of the Man to Man and the Strong Men, just pop yourself onto the website and do check out the details there. Right. Just who is the most influential person in your life? I know I'm going to have to go soon, but who is the most influential person in your life?
That is $1 million question. I don't know. I think.
Who has inspired you the most?
I guess my own family. I get inspiration from, because we went just very quickly. We went on in the end. We did go on to have another child, and my son is now 9, and he inspires me so much as a parent, and it makes me want to do. It's like it becomes your reason why, and I think so.
Yes. So it kind of goes into your purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And I think when you find that purpose, that's so powerful.
Yeah. And finally, what are your 3 or 2 top tips to any of those listeners out there, any of those men who are struggling right now, or, at the early stages or kind of in their journey to help them to keep moving forward? What would your 2 top tips be?
Talk to someone. It doesn't have to be a professional. Obviously sign up at the charity, or talk to someone that you trust, that you feel that you're comfortable in actually just sort of letting some of this stuff out. It's important to talk about it. It's what helped me. It certainly put me on the right path, and I'm almost annoyingly positive nowadays. Yes, I will never forget it. I will always take it with me, and I'll always hold that grief. But I can manage it, and I can be positive, and I can live my life positive.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that's the key, is being able to manage the situations and move forward. Yeah. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, either for your photography, your amazing photography skills and abilities and what you can do for businesses, where can they get in touch with you? And also, if they just kind of wanted to have a chat with you, is that possible to get in touch that way?
If people want to have a chat, connect with me. LinkedIn is my sort of social media platform of choice. I spend time on there. I engage with a lot of people on there, and I'm just Graham Baker on LinkedIn. But my website is Studio GBP, so Studio Graham Baker Photography, GBP.com. And yeah, I'd say LinkedIn though is the best place if you just wanted to chat, and just drop me a message and say, I heard the radio show. I'm more than happy to have a chat with anybody. Or put them in touch with the Strongmen guys.
Great. Fantastic, Graham. It has been absolutely wonderful to have you on the Mindset Matters show. I wish I could spend more time chatting to you, because there's so much that you can share with our audience and our listeners. But yes, do take his advice, talk to somebody, reach out to the Strongmen charity, have a look at their website, and, wishing everybody well. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Definitely. I totally agree. You can move forward, even though you're carrying this stuff. You can move forward and lead a positive life. It's not the end.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Well, there we have it. A very insightful, great, truthful words from, Graham Baker. A lot of food for thought in how we move forward after trauma and struggles. Yes, as he said, we still carry whatever we've gone through, the burdens and the memories, but it's how we actually move forward by managing the situations. So some wonderful words there. And again, I would like to just say, please, if you're struggling, do check out the man-to-man peer support on the Strongmen organisation. Have a look. That's the first step. It's never easy to take that first step, but if you're looking for someone to just voice your concerns, your worries, I would highly recommend that. And of course, if you want to talk to Graham, his details have been left, and I will make sure that's on the posts as well, on the Listen Again, so that you can get in touch with him. So the Strongmen organisation, and to fill out the form for man-to-man peer support on the website. Do you know, I think whether we're going through mental health, illness, or poor mental health, no matter what we do in life, there is always some sort of fear of judgment in what we do. And a lot of it comes down to the fear of the unknown, which affects our focus, affects our confidence levels. And it's all about the comfort zone and really digging deep in terms of what is it that you truly, truly want. Finding out what you want and what's really, truly important to you. And I think, Graham mentioned it, the person you want to be is so important, and go beyond that judgment. So we can't control what other people think about us, but what we can do is control ourselves, our emotions, and feel good about ourselves and how we want to cause or have an impact on people. That's one way to move forward out of sort of this negative feeling of being judged, not confident. So think about the person that you want to be, the struggles and traumas that you want to overcome, and why you want to overcome those. It is absolutely fundamental. Just on another topic, I was, it's been going on obviously since the lockdown, but on the radio and listening to people on social media, just recently, so many parents are voicing their concerns and struggles and pressures around homeschooling. And what would be great is to hear about what are you doing to help you through each day? What tips do you have? What tools are you using? Because I think this is so important. And, lots of parents' lives have been turned upside down. Not only that, there is this whole thing of online schooling through Zoom. But do parents have enough iPads, computers? Because this as well can cause a lot of anxiety and stress for parents as well as for children. I know there's some great groups out there, support groups on Facebook, where parents are getting together and they're talking and they're sharing as a community of what's going on. And if you're not in one, I would highly recommend that you join one within your area. And if there isn't one that you feel that's comfortable for you, create your own community group. It could be, the parents of your year group, where you can support each other through some of the lessons that you might have with maths and English. And of course, all of this is going to be new for a lot of parents as well, because of the new kind of structures and techniques of teaching. But what I have to say, for me, coming from a teaching background, I truly believe that it's so important that if your children are safe, they've got food and a roof over their head, don't put too much pressure on yourself in terms of their school. Yes, we want them to do well, but children are resilient, and some way they are going to be able to make it through. And fundamentally, they need to have the emotional support. When they know that they've got that and they're not feeling pressured, slowly things will fall into place where they feel, you know what, I can do this. And you will feel more energized, more focused to be able to go through each day. So be thankful for each day that you go through with them and say, you know what, I'm doing great. I'm doing a great job. So reward yourself and don't be so hard on yourself too. I often put out affirmations. Affirmations is one of my things to enable positive thinking, and I tend to post them weekly. And I wanted to share one from my Begin Each Day with Positive Affirmations, an Empowering Questions book that I have on Amazon. And the one I posted this week was, my mind and body are precious. I have only one, and I respect and treat myself as I should. And yes, we only have one, mind and body. And if we don't look after that, who is? So think about the support that's out there, whether they're professional supporters in terms of experts like the NHS. I mean, they've got some great tools on there. Everything Matters, I think it's called, on the NHS, and they have a whole load of resources that you can download to help you make that first step if you're having a bit of stress and anxiety. So it's about catching it earlier on rather than letting it kind of fester or pushing your concerns and worries under the carpet. I mean, one of the biggest concerns on mental health, or the impact on mental health, is finances. Financial burden causes an immense amount of mental pressure. So if there is someone that you can talk to, there's lots of advisors out there, have a chat with them. And I know some great advisors too, so if you want to know them, get in touch with me. I will put you in touch with them. And just find out, because just by releasing and getting clarity on one aspect of your finance can help loosen the burden. It's a shame that it's already over, but definitely Richard Cox, he presented at the Rotary Workshop Club, and he talked about budgeting, and he did it in sort of the dummies language, should I say, because I actually understood it, and it was so powerful. And even now, I've slowly started making that shift, because that was something that I was avoiding, and it's been causing me a lot of mental pressure. But now I can see a bit more clarity, and I'm kind of jumping over that hurdle of confidence and judgment, because I felt like, oh my God, I haven't got my finances right. I don't have this in place. I don't have that in place. And with the COVID, I should have had this. Yes, maybe we all should have. But unfortunately, it's not the past now. It's like, what can we do right now in the present to move forward? So what I would like to do is, first of all, thank my sponsors. So a big, big thank you to Mindberry. And if you would like to find out more about them, visit their website, mind-berry.com/home. They're a great platform that can help you individually, so in your personal life, as well as your professional life. So there's executive coaching, there's coaching for organizations, and it really focuses fundamentally on your well-being. So do check them out. And I'd like to thank Imperial Real Estate Group. So you can visit them at imperialregroup.com. Again, they do all sorts of commercial repairs, sanitizations, everything that you need. But their service is unique. They think about their customers. And what better way to have somebody who provides you a service that takes into consideration you as the customer, and that eases pressure as well. Now, I'm going to share some top tips for this weekend. So take time to chill out for yourself for 5 minutes. Go for a walk if you haven't been. I know there's lots of people that have been going for walks and it's doing wonders. But try and do something different. Maybe take a different route that you're going to go on, and start to notice different things around you that you normally wouldn't notice. Become more mindful and self-aware of what's going on. And then think about how that's affecting you, the feeling inside. What kind of emotions are going through you? And what's motivating you? So these are wonderful things to just kind of set your day right. Of course, you're getting your exercise in. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you to my listeners. Thank you very much. Tune in next week. And we've got a lovely young lady, Kira Morel, who is a psychology student who has, I'm going to tell more information about that, but she's been all over social media, viral, for just one tweet that she did. So please, please do tune in. She's inspirational. She's got so much to share with, about young people, what's going on in their minds and at university. So thank you again to all my listeners, and I'll see you next week.
The Mindset Matters Show, exploring mental health and well-being horizons with Zeenat Noorani on Channel 2 Radio.
I can almost see it, that dream I'm dreaming, but there's a voice inside my head saying you'll never reach it. Every step I'm taking, every move I make feels lost lost with no direction. My faith is shaken, but I gotta keep trying. Gotta keep my head held high. There's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move. Always gonna be an uphill battle. Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. It ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the climb. The struggles I'm facing, the chances I'm taking, sometimes might knock me down, but no, I'm not breaking. I may not know it, but these are the moments that I'm gonna remember most. Yeah, just gotta keep going, and I gotta be strong. Just keep pushing on, 'cause there's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move. Always gonna be an uphill battle, and sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. Ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the
All I want is to see you smile. If it takes just a little while, I know you don't believe that it's true. I've never meant any harm to you. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, you'll soon be here. It'll be better than before. Yesterday.
You're listening to Channel Radio.